Welcome to Truthful Crime Case. In today's episode, we dive into the story of a community torn apart by the loss of a rising young athlete. What first appeared to be a heartbreaking accident soon unfolds into a gripping tale of hidden secrets, betrayal, and a shocking love affair that led to murder. Kyle Ellerbee, an 18-year-old high school senior from Carbondale, Illinois, was a standout both in the classroom and on the football field. As the star quarterback for Carbondale Community High School, Kyle was admired by classmates and respected by his coaches. His impressive athletic skills earned him the nickname Golden Boy, and he frequently appeared in local sports headlines. Kyle dreamed of playing college football, and several universities were already looking to recruit him. He lived with his parents, Richard Ralph Ellerbee, 48, and Cindy Ellerbee, 45, in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Ralph, a sales manager, had once been a promising football player, but his sports career was cut short by a knee injury. He channeled his own unachieved dreams into Kyle, urging him to succeed in football. Cindy, who used to be lively and energetic, had grown distant, struggling with alcoholism and feelings of not being good enough. The pressure to keep up a perfect image weighed on the family, especially on Kyle, who felt the heavy load of trying to meet his father's high standards. Although Kyle appeared confident on the outside, he was a very sensitive person deep down. He wrestled with his sexual identity, something he kept hidden from everyone, even his best friends. The only person who knew his secret was his football coach, Robert J. McMurdo, with whom Kyle had been involved in a private sexual relationship. Kyle found both solace and anxiety in his relationship, worrying about the potential fallout if their affair came to light. As he approached his final days, his attention was on his future. He was busy studying for his exams and eagerly anticipating graduation. He devoted countless hours to practicing on the football field, hoping to earn a college scholarship. Yet, the pressure of keeping his secret began to affect him. Friends observed that he appeared more distracted and withdrawn than usual. His usually cheerful demeanor gave way to a troubled expression. At home, the situation was tense. His mother's drinking was worsening, and his father's expectations were becoming increasingly demanding. In his final days, Kyle grappled with a blend of hope and anxiety, trying to reconcile his aspirations for a promising future with the disturbing secrets that would eventually lead to his tragic fate. On the morning of May 12, 2014, around 7:30 a.m., Ralph Ellerbee went downstairs to the basement of his Carbondale, Illinois home, expecting to find his son Kyle preparing for school. Instead, he was met with a haunting sight. Kyle's lifeless body lay at the bottom of the stairs, surrounded by sports equipment and memorabilia, including the football trophies he had earned over the years. The basement, once a source of pride for the Ellerbee family, had become the scene of a heartbreaking discovery. Ralph's initial reaction was one of shock. He stood motionless for a moment, unable to grasp the reality of what he was witnessing. The 48-year-old sales manager, who had always been so proud of his son's achievements, was overtaken by panic and disbelief. He hurried to Kyle's side, frantically looking for any signs of life, but it was evident that his son was gone. The boy who had been the focal point of his life, the one he had pushed to succeed, now lay lifeless at his feet. After a few moments, Ralph composed himself enough to call 911. His voice trembled and was barely audible as he reported the situation, saying, "My son, he's not breathing," with evident distress. The 911 operator tried to keep Ralph calm and asked for details, but he struggled to concentrate on the questions. His mind was consumed by thoughts of Kyle and the painful reality that his son would never achieve the dreams they had worked so hard for. When the paramedics arrived a few minutes later, they confirmed what Ralph had already feared. Kyle was confirmed dead. The scene was eerily silent, broken only by Ralph's heavy breathing and the faint hum of a television left on in the living room. Meanwhile, Cindy Ellerbee, Kyle's mother, remained upstairs, drunk and asleep, completely unaware of the tragedy that had just occurred. It wasn't until Ralph's anguished cries reverberated through the house that Cindy woke up, disoriented and groggy from the previous night. As the horrifying reality sank in, her screams shattered the morning's silence, amplifying the grief engulfing the Ellerbee home. The Carbondale police arrived at the residence around 8 a.m. on May 12, 2014, just minutes after Ralph's frantic 911 call. Detective Sally O'Malley, a seasoned officer with a reputation for sharp instincts and a straightforward approach, led the investigation. At 42, O'Malley had over 15 years of experience with the Carbondale Police Department and had tackled many difficult cases, but the death of a well-known high school quarterback like Kyle Ellerbee promised to be particularly challenging. Upon entering the basement, O'Malley and her team encountered a scene that didn't fully make sense. Kyle's body was found at the bottom of the stairs, near a large football trophy. The basement was cluttered with sports equipment helmets, jerseys, and footballs scattered about, but the arrangement of the body and the surrounding items drew O'Malley's attention. Detective O'Malley observed that although Kyle's head injury seemed consistent with a fall, the absence of blood and the position of his body suggested a more sinister scenario. The dimly lit basement, with only a few small windows letting in the morning light, featured walls decorated with posters of NFL stars like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, and shelves lined with Kyle's numerous trophies. As she examined the scene, O'Malley noticed the lack of any clear signs of struggle, but her experience led her to suspect that what appeared to be an accident could potentially be a staged crime. As the forensics team started photographing and collecting evidence, O'Malley scrutinized the large football trophy lying next to Kyle. Its size made it capable of causing a fatal injury, and she noticed faint smudges on it that resembled fingerprints. Believing it could be the murder weapon, she ordered the trophy to be bagged as evidence. The rest of the house was also searched. In the living room, the TV was still on, playing Good Morning America on a BC. Cindy Ellerbee sat on the couch in shock, with a half-empty bottle of vodka on the coffee table in front of her. Meanwhile, Ralph, who had discovered Kyle's body, was pacing the floor, visibly distraught but cooperating with the officers. Detective O'Malley's instincts suggested that this was more than a tragic accident. The unsettling nature of the scene and the peculiar details pointed to a more complex situation. As the investigation progressed, it would become evident that Kyle Ellerbee's death was not as straightforward as it initially seemed. Detective O'Malley first focused her attention on Coach Robert J. McMurdo, the 46-year-old football coach at Carbondale Community High School. Coach McMurdo was a prominent figure in the community, known not only for leading the football team to many victories, but also for his charismatic and authoritative demeanor. He had a reputation for being tough yet fair, someone who could motivate his players to excel. Coach McMurdo expressed shock and disbelief when he learned about Kyle Ellerbee's death. He described Kyle as a dedicated and talented player who was integral to the team's success. McMurdo mentioned that he had not noticed any signs of distress or problems with Kyle in recent times. He also noted that Kyle had been a model student and athlete, making the news of his death even more shocking. McMurdo offered to assist with the investigation and provided any relevant information he could about Kyle's recent activities and interactions. Beneath his confident exterior, O'Malley sensed there might be more to Coach McMurdo than he was letting on. At the police station, McMurdo was cooperative but visibly anxious. He sat across from Detective O'Malley in a small, dimly lit interrogation room. The walls of the interrogation room were bare, and the only noise was the soft hum of the air conditioning. O'Malley started the interview by asking Coach McMurdo about his relationship with Kyle. The coach spoke warmly of Kyle, calling him one of the most talented and dedicated players he had ever coached. Kyle had a natural gift, McMurdo said, his voice trembling slightly. With his physique, he could read the field like no one else. I had big plans for him. When O'Malley pressed further, asking if their relationship extended beyond the football field, McMurdo hesitated. His discomfort was evident as he tried to keep his composure. He admitted that he cared about Kyle, but insisted it was purely in the way a coach cares for any of his players. O'Malley remained unconvinced, noting the guilt and fear in McMurdo's eyes. She directly asked about any sexual relationship between him and Kyle, a question that made McMurdo visibly tense. McMurdo's face grew pale, and he struggled to maintain his composure. After a moment of silence, he vehemently denied any inappropriate relationship with Kyle, insisting that their interactions were strictly professional. Despite his denial, O'Malley could sense his unease and decided to investigate further into his background and interactions with Kyle. The tension in the room heightened as O'Malley continued to probe, determined to uncover the truth behind the coach's nervous reaction. McMurdo's denial was immediate, but the quiver in his voice was noticeable to O'Malley. She then shifted the focus to the morning of Kyle's death, inquiring about McMurdo's whereabouts and whether he had any contact with Kyle that day. The coach insisted he was at home preparing for practice and had not spoken to Kyle since the day before. When O'Malley presented McMurdo with records of sexually explicit text messages and naked pictures exchanged between him and Kyle late the night before, McMurdo's calm demeanor began to crumble. His face went pale as he understood the gravity of the evidence against him. "He had a body like Adonis," McMurdo exclaimed, his composure deteriorating under the weight of the incriminating evidence. Robert told the police he was conflicted by his romantic relationship with Kyle, which became sexual after he saw Kyle showering following a practice. He claimed he genuinely loved Kyle but was aware of the severe consequences if their affair were ever discovered. Despite maintaining his innocence throughout the interrogation, McMurdo's nervousness grew increasingly evident. McMurdo repeatedly wiped his forehead with a handkerchief, his hands trembling slightly. Although he tried to maintain a semblance of control, it was evident that the pressure was affecting him. O'Malley recognized that she had unsettled him, but she knew that without a confession or more concrete evidence, she couldn't make an arrest at that moment. The interrogation concluded with McMurdo being released, but O'Malley made it clear that he was now a prime suspect in the investigation. Next, Detective O'Malley focused on Richard Ralph Ellerbee. Kyle's 48-year-old father, Ralph, was a sales manager at a local auto dealership and a prominent figure in Carbondale. Ralph Ellerbee was known as a proud and ambitious man who lived through his son's achievements. Once a star high school athlete himself, Ralph's football career was cut short by a knee injury. He had poured all his unfulfilled dreams into Kyle, pushing him to excel on the football field. On the morning of Kyle's death, Ralph's reaction was intense and visibly distressed. He repeatedly asked the officers what had happened to his son. Witnesses noted that he appeared more agitated than heartbroken, which drew attention from those around him. During his interview with O'Malley, Ralph was cooperative but defensive. He expressed concern about how the tragedy might impact Kyle's legacy and the family's reputation. Ralph spoke proudly of Kyle's accomplishments, highlighting the significant investment he had made in his son's future. "Kyle was destined for greatness," Ralph said, his voice heavy with emotion. "He was going to make it to the NFL, and I was going to ensure that happened." However, as the conversation shifted to Kyle's personal life, Ralph's tone changed. Ralph became evasive, especially when O'Malley inquired about Kyle's relationship with Coach McMurdo. O'Malley had already uncovered that Ralph and McMurdo had a sexual relationship. Ralph frequently attended practices, games, and team meetings, where he and the coach would discuss Kyle's progress and future. When asked if he knew about Kyle's sexual involvement with McMurdo, Ralph hesitated before admitting that he had heard rumors but claimed he didn't believe them. Despite his denial, O'Malley remained skeptical and unconvinced by his responses. O'Malley had evidence indicating that Ralph knew more than he was admitting. Text messages between Ralph and McMurdo on Ralph's phone revealed his awareness of the relationship between his son and the coach. The messages included plans for meetings and offers to act as a lookout. In one exchange, Ralph even congratulated McMurdo, suggesting that his sexual encounters with Kyle might have contributed to McMurdo's impressive performance, including 3 touchdowns in a previous game. Upon confronting Ralph with the incriminating text messages, he became visibly distressed and defensive. He tried to downplay his knowledge, insisting that he was only trying to protect his son and ensure his success. However, the mounting evidence and O'Malley's persistent questioning left him cornered. Faced with the overwhelming evidence of his involvement, Ralph's responses became increasingly erratic. He continued to deny any wrongdoing but struggled to provide a coherent explanation for the messages. Despite Ralph's attempts to stay calm and collected, O'Malley observed cracks in his composure. His voice occasionally wavered, and he appeared unusually anxious when certain topics were brought up. The detective suspected that Ralph's deep-seated homophobia and fear of scandal had stirred a volatile mix of emotions, which he struggled to control. As the interview wrapped up, O'Malley remained convinced that Ralph was concealing something. His reluctance to fully acknowledge his son's involvement with Coach McMurdo, combined with his evident discomfort, made him a significant person of interest in the investigation. The final suspect on Detective Sally O'Malley's list was Cindy Ellerbee, Kyle's 45-year-old mother. Cindy had once been a vibrant woman, a former teen beauty queen known for her lively personality. However, by May 2014, she had become a shadow of her former self, battling alcoholism and deep-seated feelings of inadequacy. Her marriage to Ralph had deteriorated into a strained and loveless relationship, with Cindy often feeling overlooked as Ralph concentrated all his attention on Kyle's football career. During her interview, Cindy revealed that she was deeply affected by Kyle's death and felt overshadowed by Ralph's obsessive focus on their son's football career. She admitted to struggling with alcoholism and feeling inadequate, particularly in her role as a wife and mother. Cindy also mentioned that her relationship with Ralph had become increasingly distant and strained. Despite her emotional state, Cindy insisted she was unaware of any inappropriate relationship between Kyle and Coach McMurdo and denied any involvement in or knowledge of the circumstances leading to her son's death. Cindy's struggle with alcohol had become widely known in the community. Neighbors often spotted her at the local liquor store, frequently purchasing bottles of cheap vodka. Her drinking had escalated to the point where she was rarely sober, causing increasingly erratic behavior that alienated her from friends and family. Her once vibrant personality had faded, leaving her isolated and emotionally distant. Cindy's relationship with Kyle had significantly deteriorated as well. She resented the immense pressure Ralph placed on Kyle to succeed and was deeply jealous of the close bond between them. While she once felt connected to her son, her jealousy and struggles with alcohol had created a rift. On the morning of Kyle's death, Cindy had been at home, unaware of the tragedy unfolding in the basement, until Ralph's cries woke her. When the police arrived, they found Cindy in a state of hysteria, alternating between uncontrollable sobbing and incoherent shouting. Her disheveled appearance and the strong smell of alcohol on her breath raised immediate concerns among the officers. During her interview with Detective O'Malley, Cindy was emotionally unstable, swinging between moments of deep grief and anger. She struggled to provide coherent answers, her emotional and intoxicated state making it difficult for O'Malley to get clear information. Cindy fluctuated between anger and sadness, her responses often incoherent. When O'Malley asked about her relationship with Kyle, Cindy's answers were evasive. "Kyle was my baby," she repeated, but when pressed for specifics about their interactions in the days leading up to his death, she struggled to provide clear answers. Her emotional turmoil and evasiveness raised further suspicions for O'Malley, as Cindy seemed unable or unwilling to recount key details. When O'Malley asked about Cindy's relationship with Coach McMurdo, her reaction was telling. Cindy's face twisted in anger as she accused her son of taking away McMurdo from her. She revealed a deep resentment, implying that she had romantic feelings for the coach and felt betrayed by Kyle's involvement with him. This revelation exposed a possible motive for jealousy, further complicating the investigation. "Kyle had the mind of a hussy and the body of Tom Brady," Cindy spat, her words thick with bitterness. "Why did he have to take my man?" As the interview continued, Cindy became increasingly agitated, especially when O'Malley hinted that Kyle's death might not have been an accident. The suggestion seemed to trigger her, and her anger flared, revealing deep-seated resentment and emotional instability. O'Malley noted Cindy's erratic behavior as a potential red flag in the investigation. Detective O'Malley, sensing the volatility in Cindy's responses, decided to shift tactics. She allowed Cindy to vent her emotions but carefully guided the conversation, asking more pointed questions about Cindy's actions on the day of Kyle's death. O'Malley also requested a forensic analysis of Cindy's phone records and any communications with Coach McMurdo, suspecting there might be more to uncover. At the same time, she ensured that Cindy was monitored, knowing that her emotional instability could lead to further revelations or erratic behavior that might provide more clues. Cindy's erratic behavior and mood swings made it challenging for Detective O'Malley to extract a coherent narrative. However, O'Malley keenly observed that Cindy's anger toward Coach McMurdo and her jealousy of Kyle's close bond with Ralph appeared to fuel her emotional outbursts. These underlying tensions hinted at possible motives, reinforcing O'Malley's belief that Cindy, despite her instability, remained a person of interest in the investigation. O'Malley couldn't shake the possibility that Cindy's deep-seated resentments and deteriorating mental state might have played a role in Kyle's death. The interview left the detective with more questions than answers, but one thing was certain: Cindy Ellerbee's troubled past and volatile emotions made her a central figure in the unfolding tragedy. O'Malley knew that Cindy's unraveling might hold the key to understanding the mystery surrounding Kyle's death, and she remained focused on unraveling the truth behind the family's dark secrets. On May 18, 2014, just a week after Kyle Ellerbee's tragic death, a startling new development rocked the town of Carbondale. During Kyle's memorial service, held in the local high school gymnasium with hundreds of mourners gathered, the atmosphere was thick with sorrow. However, it was Ralph Ellerbee's sudden outburst that left everyone in shock. As the eulogies were being delivered, Ralph, overcome with emotion, stood up and began shouting, his voice filled with anguish. He ranted about betrayal, hinting at secrets Kyle had kept from him, and accused those close to him of hiding the truth about his son's life. The outburst stunned the crowd and left an air of confusion and unease, making it clear that the mystery surrounding Kyle's death was far from over. During the memorial service, Ralph Ellerbee's outburst included a series of shocking statements. He loudly accused Coach McMurdo of exploiting his son and criticized the people around him for not revealing the full truth. Ralph's speech was chaotic and emotional. He spoke about Kyle's secret struggles and hinted at hidden aspects of his life that no one had previously known. He exclaimed that there were lies and betrayals surrounding Kyle's death and suggested that the community had been kept in the dark about the true nature of the relationships and events leading up to the tragedy. His outburst left the attendees stunned and further fueled the investigation into Kyle's death. Ralph, visibly intoxicated and overwhelmed with emotion, stood up in the middle of the service. His words were slurred, but his message was unmistakable. He confessed that he knew his wife, Cindy Ellerbee, had killed their son. The revelation shocked the mourners and threw the entire investigation into a new light, as Ralph's dramatic admission added a startling new layer to the ongoing case. Following Ralph's startling confession, the scene erupted into chaos. Mourners were left stunned and confused, and the police quickly intervened. Detective O'Malley, who was present at the service, immediately took Ralph into custody for questioning. The authorities also detained Cindy Ellerbee for further investigation. In the aftermath, the police launched a renewed investigation, focusing on Cindy's potential involvement. Forensic evidence, including her recent interactions and behavior, was re-examined. The case's dynamics shifted dramatically as the investigation delved deeper into the Ellerbee family's troubled history and their complex relationships. Ralph's confession took a dramatic turn as he revealed that he had assisted Cindy in staging the scene to appear as an accident. His intention had been to shield their family from scandal. The crowd fell silent, unable to grasp the gravity of his admission. Detective Sally O'Malley, who had been at the service to observe the family's reactions, recognized that the investigation had reached a pivotal moment. The confession not only implicated Cindy but also suggested Ralph's complicity, leading to a critical reassessment of the case and a deepened scrutiny of both Ralph and Cindy's roles in Kyle's death. Following Ralph's confession, the Carbondale Police Department acted swiftly, taking Ralph into custody for further questioning. They returned to the Ellerbee household with a renewed focus, specifically targeting the basement where Kyle's body had been discovered. The police re-examined the scene with fresh eyes, looking for evidence that corroborated Ralph's admission and provided further insight into the staging of the crime. They carefully analyzed the basement for any additional clues or inconsistencies that could validate or refute the staged accident narrative and unravel the full extent of the Ellerbee family's involvement in Kyle's death. With Ralph's confession as a new lead, the officers conducted a thorough search of the basement, looking for evidence that could support his story. They discovered traces of blood that had been inadequately cleaned, as well as additional fragments of the shattered trophy that had been overlooked during the initial investigation. Forensic experts re-examined the evidence and confirmed that the blood matched Kyle's DNA, strengthening the case against both Ralph and Cindy. This new evidence provided critical insights into how the scene had been manipulated and further implicated Ralph and Cindy in the staging of Kyle's death. Ralph's confession, coupled with the physical evidence, revealed a disturbing narrative of events leading up to Kyle's death. It became clear that Cindy had violently attacked Kyle with the trophy in a fit of rage, and Ralph had subsequently helped her to stage the scene and cover up the crime. The community was left in shock and disbelief, grappling with the horrifying truth about the Ellerbee family and the brutal reality behind Kyle's tragic end. The case not only unveiled the dark secrets within the family but also left a lasting impact on the town of Carbondale. What had initially been perceived as a tragic accident was now revealed to be a brutal murder, meticulously concealed by the individuals who should have been Kyle's protectors. The new evidence and Ralph's confession propelled the investigation to a crucial point. The Carbondale Police Department acted swiftly following Ralph Ellerbee's dramatic confession at the memorial service, advancing the case towards a shocking arrest. With the evidence mounting and the true nature of Kyle's death uncovered, the authorities prepared to bring those responsible to justice. On May 20th, 2014, just 48 hours after Ralph's shocking admission, the police officially identified Cindy Ellerbee as the prime suspect in Kyle's murder. Cindy, a 45-year-old homemaker battling alcoholism, had been a known troubled figure in the community. Her erratic behavior and fraught relationship with Kyle were familiar to neighbors and friends, but the revelation of her role in his death came as a harsh reality for many. The confirmation of Cindy's involvement, combined with Ralph's confession, transformed the case from a tragic accident into a chilling tale of familial betrayal and violence. Detective Sally O'Malley spearheaded the effort to bring Cindy Ellerbee into custody. Early that morning, her team arrived at the Ellerbee household. The atmosphere was heavy with tension, and the overcast skies mirrored the somber mood of the officers as they prepared to execute the arrest. The gravity of the situation weighed on everyone, knowing that they were about to confront Cindy with the evidence of her involvement in Kyle's death. The police team, led by Detective O'Malley, approached the Ellerbee household with caution. As they knocked on the door, Cindy, visibly disheveled and still grappling with her emotional instability, answered. When the officers informed her of the charges and her arrest, she initially appeared bewildered and disoriented. Cindy was taken into custody and transported to the police station for questioning. During her interrogation, O'Malley presented the evidence linking her to the crime, including Ralph's confession and the physical evidence from the basement. Faced with mounting proof, Cindy's defenses began to crumble. She eventually admitted to the assault on Kyle, acknowledging her rage and the subsequent cover-up. As Cindy's arrest was processed, the community struggled to come to terms with the grim reality of the case. The investigation moved forward with preparations for the legal proceedings, focusing on securing justice for Kyle and addressing the deep-seated issues within the Ellerbee family. When the officers arrived at the door, Cindy Ellerbee answered, her appearance disheveled and weary, as though the days since the memorial had taken a toll on her. There was little resistance as she was placed under arrest. The gravity of the moment seemed to sink in deeply, and Cindy broke down in tears, not out of shock, but out of resignation. The reality of her situation had clearly overwhelmed her, marking the beginning of the legal process that would seek justice for her son, Kyle. Cindy, understanding that the truth had finally come to light, was quietly escorted to the police car. The neighborhood around the Ellerbee home was unusually silent, with only the distant hum of morning traffic piercing the stillness. At the police station, Cindy was formally charged with the murder of her son, Kyle Ellerbee. The formal charges marked a significant step in the legal proceedings, setting the stage for the court to address the tragic and disturbing case. During her initial interrogation, Cindy was emotional yet cooperative. She provided a detailed account of the events leading up to Kyle's murder. Cindy admitted to having been heavily intoxicated on the night of Kyle's death. The argument between them had intensified, fueled by her deep-seated jealousy over his relationship with Coach McMurdo. Cindy's emotions were raw as she recounted how her resentment and alcohol had contributed to the tragic escalation that led to the violent confrontation and, ultimately, Kyle's death. In a fit of blind rage, Cindy admitted to grabbing one of Kyle's football trophies and striking him with it, causing his immediate death. She explained that when Ralph discovered the aftermath, he chose to help her cover up the crime. Together, they staged the scene to look like an accident. They moved Kyle's body to the bottom of the basement stairs and scattered sports equipment around to create the illusion that he had fallen, hoping to mislead investigators and conceal the true nature of his death. Ralph's attempt to keep their family's dark secret hidden ultimately failed as his conscience led him to reveal the truth. Cindy's arrest sent shockwaves through the community, transforming the Ellerbee family from a symbol of success and unity into a stark example of betrayal and tragedy. The community grappled with the shocking revelation of the family's deep-seated issues and the brutal reality of Kyle's death, marking a profound and unsettling shift from the admiration they once received. The reactions from those close to Kyle were a complex blend of anger, sorrow, and disbelief as they grappled with the horror of a mother committing such a grave act against her own child. The trial of Cindy Ellerbee for the murder of her son, Kyle, began in late August 2014 at the Jackson County Courthouse in Carbondale, Illinois. The courtroom was filled with a mix of emotional witnesses, community members, and media, all eager to see justice served for Kyle. The case rapidly dominated local headlines, with the Southern Illinoisian and other media outlets extensively covering the proceedings. The courtroom was crowded with spectators, many of whom had known the Ellerbee family and were keenly interested in the trial. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Mark Armthorpe, a 50-year-old attorney with a reputation for his firm approach to violent crimes, contended that Cindy's actions were premeditated. They presented evidence and arguments aimed at demonstrating that the murder was not a spur-of-the-moment act, but a deliberate and calculated crime. Armthorpe depicted Cindy as a woman overtaken by jealousy and rage, unable to manage her distress over her son's relationship with Coach Robert J. McMurdo. He highlighted the crime's brutality, stressing that Cindy not only killed her son but also meticulously covered up the murder with Ralph's assistance. The prosecution's case was reinforced by compelling forensic evidence and Ralph's confession, which provided a clear and damning account of the events, leaving minimal room for doubt about Cindy's guilt. On the defense side, attorney Linda Caldwell Blankenship, a 45-year-old public defender known for tackling challenging cases, argued that Cindy's actions were not premeditated but resulted from a momentary lapse in judgment exacerbated by alcohol and emotional turmoil. Caldwell Blankenship aimed to present Cindy as a victim of her circumstances, struggling with addiction and mental health issues and overwhelmed by life's pressures. She advocated for leniency, suggesting that Cindy's behavior was not indicative of a cold-blooded killer, but rather a profoundly troubled individual in need of help rather than severe punishment. Throughout the trial, Kyle's friends and teammates were present, their expressions a mix of grief and bewilderment as they grappled with the loss of their cherished friend in such tragic circumstances. After only 2 days of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict of guilty for second-degree murder. Cindy Ellerbee was sentenced to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole, a somber resolution to a case that had profoundly impacted the community. The verdict provided a degree of closure for Kyle's friends and family, yet the community remained deeply affected by the trial. The sentencing of Cindy Ellerbee left people divided. Some felt that the 25-year prison term was a just consequence for her actions, while others thought the punishment was overly severe given her struggles with addiction and mental health issues. The case continued to stir debate, reflecting the complexities of justice and the challenges of understanding and addressing personal tragedy. The exposure of his relationship with Kyle Ellerbee had irreparably damaged Coach Robert J. McMurdo's career. Although he was never charged with a crime, the scandal tarnished his reputation beyond repair. He relocated out of state in an attempt to escape the public scrutiny and rebuild his life in relative obscurity. Despite his efforts to start over, the stigma of his past continued to follow Coach Robert J. McMurdo. He struggled to shake off the shadows of the scandal, opting for low-profile jobs to stay out of the public eye. Meanwhile, the community of Carbondale, once unified in support of the Ellerbee family, was left fragmented and disillusioned, grappling with the aftermath of the case and the complex emotions it stirred. The trial unveiled the hidden tensions within the town, shattering the illusion of a perfect community. In the years that followed, Kyle Ellerbee's tragic death remained a poignant reminder of the secrets and underlying issues that can unravel both families and entire communities. The case left an indelible mark on Carbondale, forever changing its narrative and the lives of those who witnessed it. A Truthsful Crime Case solvers. Interested in more real-life murder mysteries? Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Do you have any thoughts about this case or have a case of your own you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Until then, stay safe.